This is World of Africa. Welcome to the program. On the show this week, Tunisia is on the brink as hatred towards the African migrant community gets out of hand. Thousands are fleeing in droves over fear of being lynched in the city of Sfax. It's a problem that is turning out to be a concern. We begin in Southern Africa, where opposition party supporters in Zimbabwe are outraged following a decision to ban them from holding a rally 6 weeks before the elections. Police ordered the opposition Citizens Coalition for Change party not to hold a rally to officially launch their election campaign because the venue was unsuitable. The decision increased tensions in the Southern African nation, which has a history of violent and disputed elections. Here now is a report from Harare.
Political temperatures are rising in the run-up to what is expected to be a tense vote on August 23rd in a country that has been ruled by one political party, ZANU-PF, since independence from Britain 43 years ago. Zimbabwean police thwarted a planned weekend opposition campaign rally over lack of toilets and unsuitable roads to the venue, the latest in a series of bans against the August polls. 80-year-old President Emmerson Mnangagwa, who replaced strongman Mugabe in 2017 after a military-led coup, is seeking re-election. But he faces a disaffected population that is battling hyperinflation, poverty and high unemployment. The party, once led by Robert Mugabe, faces its biggest challenge from the largest opposition group, the Citizens Coalition for Change, CCC, of 45-year-old Nelson Chamisa. The rally that was scheduled for the northeast of the capital Harare is the fourth CCC meeting to be banned countrywide within a week.
The main thing that we're going to do is, and this is something we've been doing for the last 14 months, is we're going to continue to win hearts and minds. You can try and ban us from a stadium, but you can't ban us from the hearts of the people. And Zimbabwean citizens are determined and ready for change.
Since the by-elections that happened, and until now, over 50 rallies of the opposition have been banned by the police. I think this gives the impression that the space is not open for the opposition parties, and I think it dents the credibility of the elections. Also, given that there are no similar complaints from the ruling party.
While filing his papers to contest Zimbabwe's upcoming elections, the president insisted that the closely watched vote would be peaceful despite complaints of an opposition crackdown.
This process is so peaceful. This is what we want. It should continue now, during the process of campaigning, during the elections, post-election. This is the peace we want as a mature democracy.
The August 23rd contest, expected to pit Chamisa against Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa of the ZANU-PF party, comes amid a deep economic crisis. With high inflation and a currency that plunged more than 50% last month against the US dollar. Political analysts said the general elections may fail the test of credibility if the clampdown on the opposition continues. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And still talking about elections, but this time in South Sudan. The head of the United Nations mission in South Sudan says the country is not yet ready to hold its first presidential election in the coming year. Some government officials, political parties and even civil society claim that the country was at this point not ready for free, fair and even credible elections. Here's a report from Juba.
The presidential election is viewed as a culmination of the peace agreement signed nearly 5 years ago to pull the world's youngest nation out of fighting that killed some 400,000 people. But the United Nations has already voiced concerns over the elections. The head of the United Nations mission in South Sudan says the country is not yet ready to hold its first presidential election in the coming year. The mission has cited lack of a reconstituted electoral body and a political parties' council as reasons for skepticism. As the countdown begins, stories of desperation looms in Africa's newest nation. While large-scale clashes have subsided, violence in parts of the country persists. Martha Nyangwer didn't have time to bury her husband, son or daughter when they were killed by gunfire in September. Instead, the 50-year-old paid respects by throwing bits of grass over their bodies, grabbed her remaining children and fled.
I lived in Sudan before. But I heard that South Sudan had returned to peace, so we came with the family. We knew South Sudan had returned to peace and we were all very happy. I was with my children, grandchildren and husband, and we came in August 2022. When we arrived at Aitar, there was a ship that started attacking. The ship started shooting at us. As we were running, my husband, my son and grandchild were killed. I was in shock. I didn't know where to go or what to do.
We receive IDPs from different parts of Jel and Atar as a result of the conflict that happened way from end of last year until January. Many of them come and report cases like sexual assault and rape and other forms of gender-based violence they suffered as a result of the conflict. We provide them with psychosocial support and medical services at our health center.
The United Nations panel of experts on South Sudan reported that government and opposition forces played facilitating roles in the violence. Displacement is at its highest since the peace deal was signed. Food insecurity, meanwhile, is at its worst since the country gained independence in 2011. The government says it is serious about the peace process and that it will hold elections on time. President Salva Kiir vowed never to return the country to violence. But the implementation of the peace agreement has been sluggish and key elements of the accord have not yet been implemented.
You comrades from the National Liberation Council, I ask you all to support peace so that development can take place. The revitalized peace agreement has been extended for 2 more years to enable implementation of the agreement before the general elections.
President Salva Kiir and his rival Vice President Riek Machar are at loggerheads over the sacking of defense and interior ministers. The country is yet to deploy its unified defense forces, made of former rival groups, an integral part of the agreement. The government says deployment is delayed due to lack of funds, but critics say it is due to a lack of political goodwill. Kiir says his country's long-delayed elections will take place in 2024 and has thrown his hat in the ring. He is expected to face off with Machar, who is yet to confirm his candidacy. The opposition has accused the government of lacking the political will to hold elections. But Kiir has said he is committed to free and fair elections. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Racial tensions in the Tunisian coastal city of Sfax flared into violence, targeting migrants from sub-Saharan Africa. The long and motionless line to escape the city comprises representatives from most of sub-Saharan Africa. Many have already experienced intense hardship on their long and hazardous journeys to Tunisia.
This is the Sfax railway station. African migrants flock to the station intending to travel to their country's consulate in Tunis, seeking assistance to facilitate their journey back home. They've had enough.
Since 3 days, we have been at odds with the police and the tramps in the neighborhood. People say that Africans set fire to a house and killed someone. But who killed? We do not know. Who set the fire? We do not know. All Tunisians say that it's the Africans.
Racial tensions flared this week and turned violent. The target were migrants from sub-Saharan African countries, with dozens fleeing the city or being forcibly evicted. Sfax, Tunisia's second largest city, is a departure point for many hoping to reach Italy by sea. Often to the island of Lampedusa, about 130 kilometers away.
I want to go back to my country. That's my destination. I don't know what the problem is. I was sleeping when the Arabs entered the house.
Videos shared on social media show police chasing dozens of migrants from their homes to the cheers of city residents before loading them into police cars. Tunisian authorities on Tuesday deported a group of 100 migrants from Sfax towards the Libyan border, according to a joint statement by the Tunisian Forum for Economic and Social Rights and over 20 other non-governmental organizations.
What is happening in Tunisia at the moment, where human beings are being rounded up and the only thing that unites them is the color of their skin, is a disgrace. This will go down in our history as a black mark.
Cela va nous rester dans notre histoire comme une page noire.
Some Tunisians expressed solidarity with the migrants, providing food and medical help to those now living on the streets after being chased out from their homes. Tunisia has seen a rise in racially motivated attacks after President Kais Saied in February accused hordes of undocumented migrants of bringing violence and alleging a criminal plot to change the country's demographic makeup. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Tibetan spiritual leader Dalai Lama recently turned 88. Tibetan people and his followers celebrated his birthday all over the world, including South Africa, the birthplace of his best friend, late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and also a country that has received criticism for denying visa thrice to the Nobel Peace Laureate. Our correspondent Kalden Ongmu attended the birthday event.
South Africa in the past has put a spotlight on itself regarding the Dalai Lama issue. The ANC-led government has been slammed for denying the Tibetan spiritual leader visa thrice. However, this has not deterred some of his followers in South Africa who believe that political leaders in the country should not mix up politics with humanity and compassion that Dalai Lama carries.
It just makes me really sad and really doubtful about the ethics and the intention and the vision of leaders of this country to deny someone of, I saw His Holiness along with Mandela, Madiba together as friends. So I just can't understand what this government's thinking. It's really, it's depressing.
Dalai Lama visited South Africa in 1996, 1999 and 2004 when he met with Nelson Mandela. Both of them shared similar values. However, it did not take long for ANC-led government to change its mind later. It seems as though Mandela's vision, his legacy and the moral leadership he provided disappeared immediately after he passed on. The Tibetan spiritual leader was denied visa to visit South Africa in the year 2009, 2011 and 2014. Until this day, some South African politicians not attached to ANC feel that China, now a major African and South African trading partner and investor, could have taken precedence over Dalai Lama.
Once you deny a visa for someone to come to your country, which means it definitely says you have a problem with them. So it wouldn't be my feeling, but it is a perception that the government has gave us as South Africans, that when they denied His Holiness visa to come to South Africa, then it says that the perception is that they were not aligned with Tibet, and they were mostly aligned with China.
Ignoring politics, followers of the Dalai Lama until this day meet annually to celebrate his birthday in the office of the Tibetan Centurion. Representatives from various parts of the world, academics, artists gathered the past weekend to celebrate the exiled Tibetan leader and hoped that South Africa will one day understand and support the Tibet and its people. Recently, the Tibetan spiritual leader in India's Pantsula said that he is open for talks with China over the problems of Tibetans.
The politics and controversy around why the Dalai Lama has been denied visa by South African government will always remain a mystery. But it has led many to speculate. Could it be because South Africa does not want to upset China? This is Kalden Ongmu from Johannesburg, South Africa. For WION, World is One.
The recent hike in the prices of fuel in Africa's largest economy has led to a fresh spike in food prices, dashing hopes of returning to a more stable market condition. after President Bola Tinubu's announcement of removal of the petrol subsidy. One sector that has begun to feel the effects of his policy is the food sector. Our correspondent Louisa Olani sent us this report.
Nigerians are grappling with the rise in prices of essential goods and services for almost a year now. This has made it difficult for the average citizen to make ends meet. More recently, the basic food items such as tomatoes, plantain, rice, beans and cooking oil have become more expensive, putting a strain on the family's budgets. The increase in transportation cost, including fuel prices, has also had a domino effect. With the value of the naira also depreciating, both salary earners and self-employed people are feeling the heat.
Tomato is not for the faint-hearted, it's not for the weak-hearted. I bought some basket of tomatoes last week, the Yoruba tomatoes for 55,000 naira. Then I bought the Hausa tomatoes, those fresh, fine one, for 26,000 for a very small basket. So you can imagine that. So it's really frustrating, especially as business owners. You can't even predict your profit margin when you wake up the next morning. You have to pay staff, you have to pay Loma bill and all of that. So it's really exhausting.
The economists say that the country's inflation exacerbated by the war in Ukraine, while the power sector flaws, endemic corruption, insecurity and structural rigidity are contributory factors. They call on the need for government to embark on strategies that are pro-masses and slow down hasty economic decisions.
So the thing is, the government must look inwards if they want to. See, we do a lot of talk and less of actions. And even when we want to take action, it is usually not in the right direction. So the government must begin to be pro the man on the road. This is what I keep saying. And until we do that, whatever we do at the moment is just a macro. We must begin to think micro and think about the people. People are suffering.
The annual inflation rate in Nigeria rose for the fourth month to a near 18-year high of 22.41% in May 2023. The prices of food, which is the most relevant in the CPI basket, continued to accelerate to 24.82% in May after jumping by 24.61% in April. The prices also rose sharply for transportation after fuel shortages caused by the removal of subsidy by Nigeria's new president, Bola Tinubu.
Because of structural rigidities, so many things came to play. I know the border closure is one big factor. The hike in electricity tariff. Another point is the monetary authority has been hiking interest rates, and that really affected a lot of things, particularly for farmers and other producers that depend on credit from the banking sector. So all these factors have contributed to making our inflation situation very, very bad in my view.
Now, despite the promise of renewed hope for the people by the new government, the rising cost of living in Nigeria continues to impact citizens from all walks of life, as accelerating inflation and dwindling household income is eroding consumers' purchasing power. It remains to be seen how the government's proposed initiatives will address these concerns. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa Olani, WION, World is One.
And finally, a South African dance troupe is aiming to revive Pantsula, a symbol of black South African culture and resistance against apartheid. Here's a report.
Tato Phala first performed Pantsula, a symbol of black South African culture and resistance to the apartheid regime, in his childhood backyard. Now he is helping to revive the dance style and take it to a global stage. The quick-stepping, energetic dance originated among black youth living in townships under the apartheid government system of racial segregation that ended in 1994. It became a vehicle for social and political expression and resistance. Pantsula's choreography, including movements mimicking sweeping, playing dice and saluting, meditated on black South Africans' everyday experiences. It provided a code that performers could use to communicate in a language state police could not understand.
Young kids are just sitting doing nothing. Then they get bored and get hooked to drugs and alcohol.
So I'm trying to prevent that sort of thing, because I too was fortunate that people gave their time to take me off the streets, because there was a lot of crime during those days, and even those drugs were there.
The dance form later enjoyed popularity among South Africans of different races but waned as modern dance styles gained prominence. Now Phala's dance troupe wants to revive the style. He has taken the dance to France, the Netherlands and Portugal. For other troupe members like the 33-year-old Tulisil Binda, being able to express herself through the dance has provided a way to heal from life's challenges.
Dance in general, it has allowed me to explore what life is. It has allowed me to explore things that I face in life, and I'm able to actually express it via dance and Pantsula, obviously. And also dancing with feet, there's this thing about your feet being, there's some sort of healing that happens when you are dancing with your feet. So there's that thing that happens. So for me, it's been a healing journey.
The dance is now also attracting attention at home.
I'm happy that it's being revived now. That the youth will take some cognizance and their township life and see how the township life goes. And it's something that they actually put their activism, their youth activism, and know where do they come from.
We're in an African Renaissance. And so the whole world is looking to Africa to solve its problems. And so Vaakatahong is, honestly, it's a platform to offer solutions to a lot of the ills that have happened because of the history that we've experienced as a globe, to be honest. So I think they are perfectly positioned to usher us into the newness that Africa needs.
Enthusiasts say the blend of contemporary dance and South African Pantsula celebrates the spirit of community, culture and tradition of the township, and the world needs to know and feel that. Bureau Report, WION The World is One.
That's it on World of Africa this week. Get in touch with us on all our social media platforms. We appreciate your feedback. I'm Erik Njoka. Thanks for watching. See you on the next episode.